Thank you. Okay, let's start it. I think the same faces as in my previous talk, and I will do a little bit faster. What is crash test? Crash test is the form of destructive testing usually applied to cars. That's why we save, because lots of companies do it and see like the corner cases where a car can't save your life. Try to imagine what we can do it with Django. I mean, I'm not going, it's like prephrase, I'm not going to crash Django itself. I just want to talk about proposition to test Django ORM 80% of functionalities in like 20% of time, because we have like only 30 minutes. And I'm going also to show some features that exist in Django and exist in Postgres. All examples will be related to Postgres, and we will try to figure out, does Django pass my crash tests or not? Okay, about me. My name is Andrii, and I'm working in TopTel. I'm founder of my small company TP-Lab in Ukraine. I'm organizer of PyCon Belarus, and if you want to join next year, you can poke me. If you want to PyCon Ukraine, feel free. It's quite cold, but it's funny. I'm speaker, and I have a blog. I write many funny articles and with funny pictures. Okay. What's the purpose of this talk, and what's the question I try to answer in the end? The world is swimming in articles and books about Django, Django ORM, and all sources cover only basic cases. When you like have a model, you can get the data, then you see it, you say, okay, then you go to your world and you dig into your business problems and its real-world examples, and then you figure out that you missed something. And my friend who go with me to PyCon Ukraine, it's Andrew, maybe you catch him. We always met with him on different PyCons, and he wrote big IOHTTP library, and the main idea, we always discuss with him, what is the slowest part in web application? And he always proposed me that usually database is something that sometimes not so fast, not database itself, how we work with database. And maybe you read this article about funny million requests per second with Python. Have you read this article? It's quite funny. If not, you can. I mean, it's like very syntactic and not real example with framework and with tests and with the results of benchmark. I call this application like Hello World. It absolutely does not care about real world. But why this talk? I will try to help you deep understand how Django ORM works under the hood, and what kind of feature are not covered unfortunately in Django ORM compared to plain SQL, and which features from Postgres never been added into ORM. And the most valuable part is to try to test ORM. And I would like to attention you that some slides will be with lots of SQL mixed with Python. That's why don't be afraid. If I need stop, we can read it. Okay. I have a Python 3.6. I be fan of it. I use it in all my projects in production. I use latest Django. It's only beta version, but yeah. I use Postgres 9.6, but funny, we have already 9.6.2. It's quite outdated, but there's no lots of, it's not related to my talk, and I use Docker. Okay, on this slide I will try to show you that Python 2, it's a little bit messy, but we are here. This is now. This is roadmap of Django and Python 2. And if you not, by the way, who use Django and Python 2 on your production? Okay. Okay, not me. Okay, don't be afraid. But you should be very accurate that less than 1 year they will remove any support. And a good example to remove Python 2 from your project, example from Django PR, which remove Python. You see, remove 2000 lines and add 6 lines. I mean, this is support of Python. 2000 lines we just cut. And if you still think maybe Python 3, I mean, you should be aware. Okay. Real world example where I get my experience with Django ORM. I work in consumer phrase. It's big American project. We worked through TopTel. And why it's matter? Consumer phrase has like 7 million total visitors per month, I think. We have lots of heavy traffic. We care about how page fast this loads. All our business depend how fast this pages loads, it transforms to money, etc. Unfortunately, I can't show some optimization from this project. That's why I built my own university database. It's made by me, not copy-paste, not from books. I just do it from scratch. Some ideas from science. Interesting. Why I love Django? Because you can build this diagram like very quick. You can install extension for Django and you can generate something and visualize your diagram. Okay, let's describe this database. The database is founded just for test databases it is, but I apply it to Django. Like we have students, we have courses, we have professor table, and we have two tables which explain student can it take a course or professor can it teach a course, and that's it. And we have some attributes and elements on these tables. Okay. I think everybody in this room know what is relational model, but interesting fact that relational model was founded like 47 years ago, and we still use SQL. There are lots of articles and maybe discussion, SQL is died, blah blah blah, but I'm not sure that it's true because it's still one of the most popular language, query language. Okay, it's very quick introduction. What is data definition language? It's just you can create table to be on the same page with you. It's in plain SQL or other table add constraint. DML is just when you querying something from table or insert data, update data, delete data. I think it's super easy and understandable. Okay, let's start from thinking about Django itself. And first what we do, it's usually we create models. And first my small test is just if you want primary key but you skip this line, Django under the hood generate after field and with primary true. And if you don't specify primary true for any fields, it will add this line. But you can uncomment this line and explicitly to add primary key. Next problem that you can't create table using Django ORM without primary key. I mean, you can't, like if you remove this line, Django create ID field for you. If you add this line, you still have it. also you can do a trick like in my database. You can, for instance, create your primary keys like typically it does in databases. You can have a, I don't want ID, I want a number. It's like number of, I don't want to be its ID. I don't call it, I want to call it number. And just what I need to do, it's primary key true. What's limitation Django has in this case? If you create two fields with primary key true, like multi-column primary key problem, you will get exception. Like you can't assign, but sometimes if we think about multi-column primary keys or composite keys, it makes sense, but not for Django. Go next. Why is it exist? The limitation, one second, yeah. Yeah, in plain Postgres you can do this. You can declare ID integer, number integer, whatever integer, and then you can do primary key and like a tuple with brackets put all these primary keys. It's how you can do multi-column primary key, but you can't do it in Django. But you always have a trick. Why it's happened? First, limitation in object meta primary key, and there are lots of code depend on this in admin contrib code. Like for instance, we generate automatically app label, module, primary key. We need some backward for content type. There are some issues with that. But as I said, you can do a trick. You can do one field, for instance, as a primary key, and you can do unique together. That's why it will be like composite key for you. On database level, it will be still one primary key, and it will generate constraint unique for these two fields. Okay, next. This is how we can see proof of previous slide. I mean, we can't see here that like on this slide, we not generate this. Yeah, this feature does not support from Django. And you can find a ticket and wiki page where core developers try to like argue sometimes or explain what should we do with multi-column primary keys. You can find in internet some forks where multi-column primary keys existing in Django if you want. Okay, go ahead. Next should be this book, which I like. It's my favorite one for SQL. It's written like 20 years ago, where there are lots of code, and on this Rosenstein tests, he can try to explain how your mind should be thinking about tuples, database tuples, not with functional thinking that usually exist in developers with loops, etc. And Rosenstein proposed some list of tests for SQL. Then I rewrite it to Django and see what we have what kind of results we can see. Okay, you remember the database? I think so. Okay. We have table take, as you remember, which has like course number and student, and we want to filter all students who take the course computer science 11-2, and everything okay. I mean, if you write this statement, you can see only one very beautiful select, but if you remove these values invocation, this statement generate 11 SQL queries, and it sometimes confuses me. I mean, I need always turn on my all SQL debug tools, and I should see what's Django generate and be very accurate to not generate n+1 query or just redundant query. I think, okay. Next. What are the student numbers and names of students who take this course? Okay. It's the same problem, we just we can do additional values query, and Django itself generate great join, inner join, and everything looks good. But again, if we remove this, for example, or don't know how to work with these double underscores, we can again tackle on something like I usually see in code, which I try to improve, like instead of joins, people do select in and inside the loop or whatever, and I think Django passes this test. What is next? It's my favorite one. Okay. Who takes the course with name 11.2 or 11.4? And as you can see, in Django you can perform two variants. First, you can do course number in, and then you see this. The same you can see in SQL. Another trick, you can import Q clause and you can explicitly perform course number or course number. It's general approach in SQL when you have two predicates with or statements, or for example you can do in, it's absolutely equals, and it's very cool that you can do it. Next task, okay. Next task, who takes both courses? And my question, I think you sleep, guys. Can you please find error on these two clauses? I mean, Python one and SQL one, both incorrect. Who can find error? Any idea? I can make a present, motivate you guys. Please be, I know it's last talk. Yeah, go ahead.
You're filtering by CS 1 through, and then you're filtering again by CS 1.
Okay. Yeah, because you have only one column with, yes. And it, I mean, this clause return every time empty result. Yeah. And how you can fix it? Do you have ideas? Go ahead. Please. No. 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 Go ahead. Yes, but it will be, it return this. You see? I want to know users who take both courses at the same time. But I have only one column in table. In table course, I have only one column number. I can't filter table with one column. Do you have ideas? Hmm? What? No, I mean, yes, but you can do it without changing the schema. What? I think I know who knows the answer. I think no? Are you sure? I think you know. Okay, I will help you guys. You should join 2 times the table student in and do a cross join, and it means that you have two columns, and you can at the same time see which combination of user has at the same time, and this filter will work. I mean, you can't do it in Django ORM, yeah, honestly, but you can do it in a plain SQL. Yeah, and I mean, and it's, this slide is, no. And this slide shows that Django crash test this fail. I mean, yeah, and it's tricky because when you try to think about how David Rosenstein, it's only 90 pages, but he teach you to think, to change your mind, to be not like this, and to also use some kind of tricks that you can do with data in SQL, like cross joins, unions, intersects, and your thinking will be with all this stuff. Okay. Next, my favorite one is table inheritance. I mean, in Postgres, you can do this. Yeah, you have a table student, you have a table professor, and typically student and professor, something's the same, but couple attributes different. You can do number, name, age. The same you can do with professor. Professor has a name, age, salary, rank, and you can do inherit, and Postgres will not copy the data. It will just, I mean, it's not generate like in Django a couple tables. But in Django, I know a couple core developers hate me on Belarus, PyCon Belarus, because they show this slide. We have a ticket where Mark rejects this feature because they go to Postgres community and consult, and Postgres community advise, guys, you guys from Django live without our table inheritance, please don't touch it. And core developers said to me on conference that they, like, I'm not really sure how we can handle it, but core devs said to me that we know how to do it, we just don't want to put comments in this ticket, and we argue like a lot of time, but it's rejected. Okay, next couple tips about performance. You have Django, you can do a shell, it's managed by shell, and for instance, you want to see live SQL queries which generated. And what you can do import connection, you can execute your queries in debugger, for example, in IPDB or PDB, and you can run connection queries and you will see statement. It's not good because you can find all queries from this connection, but sometimes it's helpful. No need to install. Next one is to install Django extension. It's the same idea, it's playing with loggers, but you can shell plus print SQL, like my favorite one, and you can just each statement that you try to implement, you can trace with SQL and see what's it's generated. Sometimes it's really funny because it generates absolutely unpredictable stuff. Go next. Next, not so important, not so popular. Django debug toolbar is popular, but Django debug toolbar introduced debug SQL shell. It's the same as previous, but another package, and you can do the same. You can just run it and see SQL query and some timings. And last one, but maybe not least, it's if you already on production and you can't play with third parties, and you're already in debugger and you pause the code and you know that something generates lots of SQL and you want to see it, you can just do these 3 lines and you will see the trace. All these tools do the same, but with different abilities. It depends what you have. That's why I put everything. Next interesting that I found, last couple years Postgres generate lots of good features, and I like that Django community introduce it, like full-text search, some playing with functions, like this statement. For instance, you need to update all students, and usually I see lots of code which do like for student and students, then student in update blah blah blah, and like you generate too many updates. If you have like we have in our table, in our database, some tables has 30 million records, and it's not a good idea to loop. Yeah, you can do it in one statement, like you can do it in plain SQL. You can use f function, you can import it, and what you can do, you can just play in your clause with columns values, like you can do in set, like age equals student age plus 10. Like, let's do all students older for 10 years, for instance. Okay. Next very important problem I think that we can have in Django, it's migration. We have great tool for migrations, but you can always check what your migration perform. And I would like to introduce you that SQL migrate in new version of Django can print all statements, and then you can check how fast it be if you run it on production. As I said previously, we have lots of data, and not each statement generated by Django can be finished or just not log some tables or whatever, and like be very accurate with what you generate. Full-text search problem. One of my favorite feature in Postgres is full-text search. API is not so good, but it's super fun. Unfortunately, we have no time to explain it. You can find my talk or video from EuroPython. I very deeply explain how to play with full-text search and Django and Python. And I have some benchmarks between another full-text search engines in my talk. Especially I compare Elasticsearch, Postgres, Whoosh, and Xapian. And you can find some benchmarks. Next part is about the reason why now we have lots of async databases clients, especially after async.io was created in Python 3.4, I think, yeah, and ported back to Python 2. Mike, it's guy who made SQL Alchemy. He created great article where you can find his benchmarks about asynchronous Python and databases, and he figured out that not always asynchronous client to database is fast in Python code. You can find it. Okay, final thoughts. Thanks for David Rosenstein for his ideas. Now we have lots of code in country Postgres, and there are lots of new features, and I would like to recommend always to check it. Oh, sorry. It's amazing. It's super trick. How I can do it? Okay. Next talk, I think you can ask me, but I'm going to crash test SQL Alchemy. You can find the project with database, you can play with that. I will add more tests and more in my special ORM crash test repo. And please questions. Thank you for your time. Okay. It means that you understand or nothing or everything. I see. It's the second one. Nothing, yeah? Okay. Okay. What? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So what was the... Oh, okay.
I will share slides. I mean, you can do it in Django, but it will not generate, it will not use inheritance which Postgres has. You can play with all, I think, 3 or 4 ideas that you can use from Django doc. I mean, you can find it in Django docs if you don't know, but typically you can play with all cases, but it will not be in Postgres inheritance. Okay. Thank you for your time. I enjoy.